Here we go. So good.
Middlesex School Board meeting will now come to order. Let's stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Next, do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Yes, I move to add the attachment to the special education annual plan, additional consent agenda items, and the attachment regarding the pre-K 3 textbook adoption.
Okay. Seconded. Moving properly second in question. All in favor? Aye. Motion is so carried. Okay. Pages. Okay. Okay. April 21st through the 27th, National Public School Volunteer Week. April 22nd through the 26th, National Student Leadership Week. May the 6th through the 10th, National Teacher Appreciation Week. April 30th, end of interim grading period. May the 6th, interim grading period, interim grade reports issued. May the 13th, school board regular meeting at 6:30 p.m. Okay. All right, next we have recognitions.
Yes, sir, and I will go to the podium for that. All right, and I am back again to present Navigators of the Quarter for the end of Q3. That was one of our strategies this year in recognizing faculty and staff who go above and beyond and specific to one of our strategies that we named for that quarter. Since we're almost to the end of the year for Q3, we're going to recognize those who were nominated for capacity building, where they are creating a respectful and supportive culture for all school community members, and for those nominated for community engagement, where our division creates, engages, and sustains partnerships that enhance our schools and community. So just as we've done in the past, we share the nomination form with our staff, students, families, community members. Everyone had the opportunity to nominate staff members, and tonight we will recognize 3 teachers and 10 support staff members who have received multiple nominations. As I call your name, please come up and then remain up here because we want to take a group photo when we are done. So first I will start with capacity building. And our first recognition is for Peyton Haley. Peyton is our division literacy specialist. Next, we have Mrs. Cindy Pack, and Cindy is a special education teacher at Middlesex Elementary School. She will have to come down from the booth for us to recognize Jessica Croswell, who is our division data specialist. He's waving from the booth, actually. Next, we have Lisa Jett, who is one of our paraprofessionals at Middlesex Elementary School. And Lori Gregory, who is one of our assistants monitoring our buses in our transportation system. We also have Mariah Robinson, who is one of our mathematics teachers here at St. Clair Walker Middle School. Jessica Croswell makes her appearance. We are also recognizing Meredith Wyatt, who is our Dean of Students at Middlesex Elementary School. Also, we have Nadine Adams, who is our reading intervention teacher at Middlesex Elementary School. Nicole Huntley is our instructional technology resource teacher, or more affectionately known to us as our ITRT, which is a division-wide position. We have Perla Williams, who is one of our paraprofessionals at Middlesex High School. I don't think I see Perla. We will make sure this gets to her. And Sarah Mauney, who is a paraprofessional at St. Clair Walker Middle School. Our next person was actually recognized for both capacity building and community engagement, and that is Chelsea Hunt, one of our third grade teachers at Middlesex Elementary. And last, let's see. Oh, Chelsea, I forgot to give you your second one. We actually had two. And last but not least, recognized for her part in community engagement is Billy Eubank, our transportation coordinator who works for our whole division. You might have to scooch it. We had more people nominated. These are the ones who got the bulk of the nominations. Thank you all.
All right. Next, we will have educational highlights.
I think we may have them on a different schedule, maybe. I don't seem to see Dr. Sanders.
Okay, next we have public comment. And just want to say something here. Public comment is a time where we allow the community to come up and say what they feel like saying. But we also ask that it be done respectfully. And we ask that when you come up, because it's not a law or mandate or policy that we allow this to happen. And I also ask that no one at this table be called out. I ask that you be respectful of everyone that sits up here and due diligence, because it's a privilege to come up, because we don't have to allow it. So I ask that it all be done respectfully. This board has done more than due diligence of hearing what people have to say. We've given adequate time, sometimes more time than what is allowed. So with that being said, public input is now open.
All right, and we just want to remind everyone, each speaker will give his or her name and district in which they reside for the record. Speakers must be residents of one of the magisterial districts of Middlesex County and will be afforded one period of 3 minutes for public comment. If more than 3 minutes are required, someone else who has signed up may relinquish his or her time to the speaker, and all comments and remarks will be addressed to the school board. Dawn Moore of Saluda. I reserve for the second. Okay, thank you. David Gresham. All right, and Cesar Gresham. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next we have is board member reports. Tiffany? Board member reports.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. I serve on the Middlesex Foundation, and we've met, and there are continued talks about affordable housing, workforce housing development. As of right now, that project is in a stalled state. So the foundation is working with Bay Aging to try to identify funding sources to move that project forward. So there are some really great ideas coming from the Housing Department of Bay Aging with some funding opportunities. So I look forward to next steps there. I also serve on the Finance Committee, and we've done a lot of budget talks over the last few months. So I'm not going to get into that again, but that's it.
Dr. Barnett?
Since our last meeting, Mr. Chair, on the 21st of March, the Chesapeake Bay Governor's School Joint School Board had a joint meeting with the steering committee in which we approved the fiscal year 25 budget, of course, subject to approval by the governor. We also approved the Chesapeake Governor's School calendar at that meeting. You and I both attended a meeting of the School Construction Committee, and I'm pleased to say that it appears to me that things are moving ahead slowly, but deliberately, and this important project for the school, especially the Middlesex High School, is, I think, gaining some momentum. And I'm pleased that the supervisors and our school board are working together on this and moving it forward. Do you have anything else as the other member of our committee?
Well, it was pleasing to see that things were moving in a very positive direction. There's still a lot of work to be done, but progress is being made, and we got some things to look forward to.
We do.
Tom?
We have a meeting with the Bridging Communities committee on Thursday.
Okay. My WHRO committee meeting was, I guess it was last month. And it focused on, one of the educational highlights was the Virginia Opera and its programs that it offers. And they offer open rehearsals to high school students to the actual opera in Norfolk. And I think it was Madame Butterfly that they did this past season. And the students, high school students, were able to see the entire opera from start to finish during one of their rehearsals. And the Virginia Opera also has a production for middle school students, and it's more interactive, and elementary age students. And they also offer a virtual amazing opera, and it has activities and it follows SOL. So it's a great resource for any music teacher or music appreciation classes out there that might be able to make the trip all the way to Norfolk. And we have a regional special ed meeting next week.
All right, thank you so much. Next, we have some action items. Special ed annual plan.
Good evening, Chairman Reed, school board members, Dr. Seitz, Dr. Bishop. I come here this evening to speak regarding the local education plan in which we put through every year to provide for funds for staffing of teachers and paraprofessionals to meet the needs of our students with disabilities. Local education agencies are required to establish their eligibility to receive the funds under Individuals with Disabilities Education Act of 2004. IDEA, which is Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and its federal implementing regulations require that each local education agency provide for the education of students with disabilities within its jurisdiction, that it has in effect policies, procedures, and programs that are consistent with the VDOE policies and procedures, which have been established in accordance with Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This annual plan, Part B flow-through application, is a component of the VDOE's overall responsibility to ensure that each LEA is in compliance with the implementation of the requirements under Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and its federal implementing regulations. So what does that mean? Under IDEA Part B, and there's a part that's called 611, that is for, those funds are for school age students. So it's to be used to support 3.5 special education teacher salaries, as well as we have to do a proportionate set aside of $2,600 of that money to be used to provide for services of parentally placed children who go to like a private school. And we provide direct speech services if they require that. There's also $1,750 that we put aside to support supplies and instructional materials for our teachers above and beyond what they receive in their building already. Then we have the idea that early intervention is so important. And so we want to meet our children early on and provide as much as we can early on in order to hopefully not have them need special education services. So what the department does is we have Part B Section 619, which is early childhood special education funds. There's a total of $11,000, just over $11,000, that's used to support a partial salary of one instructional assistant in the classroom to assist in providing services to those little ones that we have at Middlesex Elementary. Any questions for me? Okay, thank you
so much. Next, we have school board policy and revisions.
Yes, you have a number of revisions in your packet here. I'm not going to go through them because
The majority of them are just, they're legal updates that we've received from the SBA, and they're related to changes. Maybe there was a change in a reference to a code, or there was a cross-reference change at the end of them. A lot of them, the only change was that they capitalized the words school board, or they, instead of saying he or her for the superintendent, they may have said the superintendent and designee, so no major changes to the policy. There were 4 policies that were deleted, and that's because they were either a duplication of another policy or they were not legally required. So again, I'm not going to go into those details, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on any of them.
So I do have a question. I noticed that the policy covering energy efficient construction was deleted. I assume we're still interested in energy efficient construction.
Yes, that is correct. It was deleted because it is not legally required. Is the only reason that it was deleted. It does not mean that we would change course and not look into, especially when we're looking at a renovation or new construction, that we would change course and not look at energy efficient options. I guess at some point in time it was a legal requirement, but it is no longer legally required.
Like the school board can still require.
If you want to keep that policy, yes, you could.
Mr. Chair, I think that we might want to consider keeping that policy.
Okay. All right, yes.
I have a question in regards to the homework policy was deleted.
Not legally required.
Okay.
Mhm. So again, it's still something that if you wanted to keep it, it probably would need to be updated.
Yeah.
If it's something that you chose to keep.
Yeah, any other questions?
This is first read, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, could I have a motion? To do what? Well, these are just first reading, so we don't really need a motion. Right. That's not bad. All right, so we'll move on.
I guess I do have a question.
Yes.
If you want to keep, I think you do approve them on first read and they go to second read. So if you wanted to keep policy FECBA, you would note that you're approving what's in here on first read, but that you want to keep that policy.
Okay.
I so moved.
That was good. All right,
Second.
moving properly second and question. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Okay, next we have is textbook adoption.
Members of the board, Dr. Seitz, I'll have Daniel and Baton Healy come to present the Middlesex Elementary Language Arts textbook K-3 textbook adoption. And through several months, our evaluation committee, including administrators and teachers and language arts, have proposed to adopt this resource, Book Forums curriculum. And as they're presenting, I would like to, as time is of the essence, as many school divisions are adopting curriculum right now based upon the Virginia Literacy Act, I would request if we could get a motion for approval after this, if it is so please the board to adopt this curriculum. Danielle.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board.
Please.
We're going to share with you a little bit of an update this evening on where we are with our division literacy plan. Throughout the year, you've heard about the Virginia Literacy Act and the move towards adoption of new curriculum to be put in place for the upcoming school year, and also the plan that is due, and we'll kind of go over a timeline with you. So our vision really for our division is we want to ensure that all of our students have the appropriate instruction that's based in the science of reading, that includes high quality instructional materials, so that all students have this right to be proficient readers, writers, and communicators. The next slide, why the Virginia Literacy Act? So I'm going to ask Ms. Haley to share a little bit about the Virginia Literacy Act, kind of the progression and where we are with this. and then a little bit about some of the high quality instructional materials and what that means for reading.
Good evening. As Ms. Daniel mentioned, we've been discussing the Virginia Literacy Act for the last few years. I think it went into legislation in 2022. So it's a pretty extensive piece of legislation, and it's multifaceted and a multi-year initiative. And it's meant to deal with the literacy crisis that Virginia is facing. And I would just add that that's not just Virginia. This is a national crisis that we're facing in our country. It's multifaceted in that there are parts of the legislation that deal with higher education and teacher preparation programs, and then it trickles all the way down into the school systems and what's required of teachers, what's required of reading specialists, as well as what's required of the materials that we're putting in front of students each day. There's a large focus on identifying students early that need intervention. And there's also a focus on what we're doing in the general education classroom. I think one of the things we learned is that we can't intervene our way out of this crisis. There has to be solid instruction taking place on a daily basis for all students in the general education classroom. What you're looking at on this slide is called Scarborough's reading rope, and it outlines the components of high quality reading instruction. And I think you can see here that there are many components that children need to be explicitly taught in order to become successful readers. I would urge you, if you are interested in understanding how children learn how to read, the implementation playbook, the first 20 pages of this really outlines, goes into a lot more detail about how the reading brain works and how children learn how to read. But as you can see, with all of these components, we have a need for presenting our teachers with high quality instructional materials so that they're able to make sure that we're explicitly teaching all of these different reading components. I think that's it for Nancy.
What we know about the research is essentially if all of our students have access to high quality instructional materials, specifically in reading, it's equivalent to adding about 24 to 50 instructional days to the school year. When we, right before March 13th, 2020, Ms. Haley and I attended a conference in Hampton, and at that time we had selected a curriculum for small group reading instruction that aligned to the science of reading. So we felt like we were in a good place. As far as the timeline of what does this mean specific to our division? So right now, we're going to share with you our recommendation from a committee and the process that we went through in selecting that curriculum. In May, we'll be looking at sharing this information with staff and other stakeholders. June, we'll come back to you with a Virginia literacy, essentially our plan for our division to share that would include in there what the curriculum is, as well as professional development and plans for that and implementation plans, how we monitor implementation and success of the curriculum we put in place. In July and August, we're working with the company at this time to look at professional development opportunities for our teachers. So we are recommending tonight to you all, the next slide is actually bookworms. And bookworms is, I've pulled out just a few key phrases from what was shared not only through our experience in meeting with the company, but also our curriculum committee that has met throughout the year at a minimum monthly to come together and review several curriculum. What we heard from them was it's differentiated, it's evidence-based, it's engaging for our kids. Very important to us, it builds background knowledge and it has a strong connection to science and social studies, other content areas, and it puts real books in our kids' hands. Not books that were written for a certain curriculum, which some of you, if you've been in a classroom before, a kindergarten or first grade class where you've had a child, you'll see those little level readers that are specific to that curriculum that was produced by that company. They actually have text that they would find in their library that's integrated into the curriculum. Our committee went and they piloted some of the modules with their kids, and they were very impressed by what they saw through engagement with their kids, but also building the vocabulary. The other piece that was important to our committee was we had several things in place that we believed would be on the supplemental list for phonics, such as the U-Fly program. And so it was important to our committee that if we've got pieces in place that could potentially be approved as supplemental, to be able to continue with what we are seeing working for our kids, because we have real data with our student population. One of the things that was very eye-opening for our committee was also that research was not only done by this company itself, which many companies will produce their own research. And you all know who work with numbers, data is data, but data can also be skewed a little bit for you. So what they found was the research was also from teachers and educators in the field too, with their students current. So they felt empowered to have that information and hear more about how it's implemented. When we did a survey to stakeholders in the community and teachers, we also heard from several people who identified themselves as parents in our community, who said they appreciated that all of our students would have access to the same high quality materials. They would all have access to the same type of libraries within their classrooms, which is important. Right now, teachers build their own classroom libraries. You come in and you have what you have that's been donated or given. That's not equitable for all of our kids. So it gives them access to that. We also like the fact that it included rubrics for kids and for staff to be able to evaluate student work. And it was a strong connection to writing and integrating reading and writing together. Anything additional you share?
I would just say that at the beginning of this process, I think we had our first meeting in September, October. The committee kind of laid out a few things that were important to us. And one of them was obviously, is it evidence-based, and does it have components that hit all of those parts of the reading rope that you just saw? And this program does. Another thing that we thought about was just ease of implementation. We felt like the materials are very succinct and easy to locate, and that teachers wouldn't be overwhelmed by boxes and boxes of things to sort of sort through and learn. Another item that was really important to us was that it was knowledge building. And as Ms. Daniel said, this does connect to science and social studies. And it was actually endorsed by the Knowledge Matters campaign, which is an organization of literacy leaders in the United States who look at different curricula and how they are building knowledge. So we thought that was very important. And then lastly, it is trade book based. I think between kindergarten and third grade, our students will have read about 200 different books. And so I think that's the heart of reading, right, is reading. So I think that's really important, and our teachers were excited about that as well. And yeah, just lastly, this was the only one that we reviewed that actually had peer-reviewed studies showing its efficacy in school divisions. Thank you.
From a standpoint, as far as professional development and implementation, we have options right now available to do virtual, but yet connected with across the state of Virginia with other schools for our teachers over the summer. We also have some opportunities for asynchronous. And while it does present with a summer opportunity, which can be challenging for some teachers, it also can be a great thing for some teachers who would like to digest that information prior to coming back in August, when you have all these other things you're trying to work through, and then give us an opportunity to really connect as a team at that time. As far as cost implementation implications, so we do have the all-in grant, and we also have textbook funds that we're considering to cover costs. They could range from 94 to 110,000, depending on if we are going to make sure all of our classes have those libraries available within them, which would be my recommendation, so that all of our students have access to that text.
Any questions?
Where has this curriculum been implemented before and what was their success rate?
It's in a lot of different school divisions. I can tell you, so the division leadership are, required to attend 4 sessions with the Department of Education specific to the Virginia Literacy Act. Region 3 has been participating in those sessions, so you're broken into regions to come together. Within Region 3, there were other school divisions who have been implementing bookworms prior to the mandate. They said it was an easy decision for them. They were not going to go off course. They were sticking with it. And that was because the data that they had.
Do you know what areas that was at?
Richmond County was one of
Richmond
them.
County?
Mhm.
I would also just add that all the curriculum we looked at, were already approved and vetted from the Virginia Literacy Act. So the curricula that we looked at had to be fully approved and vetted by a committee that was selected by the state. And there's a handbook with all of those different curricula in it. And so, yes, we had to, everything we reviewed had to come from that document.
In the counties that are already implementing this, the bookworms, do you know what improvement? I mean, I know you're mentioning evidence-based and data. What kind of improvement did they see in standardized test scores and reading achievement?
They did not give, I can't give you data as far as numbers.
Right.
They shared that based on what they had seen, even pre-COVID and moving forward, that for them, it was compelling enough that it wasn't worth considering in the program.
As those peer-reviewed studies have all that specific data about schools that are even there are schools outside of Virginia that have seen successes, and I can give those to Dr. Seitz or Dr. Bishop so that it can get into your hands as well.
Thank you.
I have one question. The spectrum in which this covers, you have some kids that read at a lower level, some kids read at a higher level. Does it address all of that? The kids that are at the higher level, are they being challenged to where they need to be challenged?
Yeah, that's that differentiation piece. So it does. It's scaffolded and differentiated to address your students who have are coming in at different entry points or who have challenges with different elements, or students with disabilities, even English language learners. All of that is within the program.
Thank you.
Sorry.
What would you expect bookworms to do that your current reading program is not accomplishing?
So we currently do not, this is a whole group reading program. So currently we have a small group reading program that we use, Being a Reader, that is in that K-3 band. So we have that in place. And then we have Heggerty's as well as UFLA and 95% group in our 3rd grade to address phonics. So those pieces are in place. This is the whole group place, which right now there's flexibility within classes with what the whole group looks like as far as materials and resources. What Department of Education is saying through the Virginia Literacy Act is it needs to be consistent across the board, and it needs to be a vetted curricula that's been approved. So this would take away from any maybe inconsistencies across the board. You would have more consistent as far as instruction for whole group.
So it would replace the current method of teaching reading.
The libraries you spoke of, is this going to be online or would these be physical books? Would it be completely online?
Physical books. That's what we really liked about it. Beginning in 1st grade, actually most of the books that they read are actually every student has a copy in their hands. So that was one of the things that we really liked about this program.
Mr. Chair, one more.
Yes.
There's lots of good research that shows that if students are not reading at grade level by grade 3, they're less likely to graduate from high school. Pretty staggering statistics, correlation, but still it's good research. So I would urge you, and I would urge the board to support the program that you suggested was a little pricier, to put those books in every classroom.
And like I said, what our teachers really appreciated about those books is they're books that they've seen their kids gravitate towards or take interest in. For example, I'm looking behind you, the book Hatchet is up there. That's not a book that's written for a certain curriculum. That's not a company that produced Hatchet for their set package they're gonna sell you. This is a book that a child would walk into a library and may be interested and want to read. And so all the way K-3, that's what the teacher saw within the selection that was available. And that was one of the things that really drew the committee to, and it was a unanimous recommendation. The committee consisted of teachers that have a good amount of experience in reading instruction individually and compiled together, as well as reading interventionists and specialists.
Yeah, I would say all of our teachers that were on the committee were already letters trained teachers. So they already had some background in science of reading and evidence-based practices.
I mean, I think we can agree that if the children are reading books that are pleasurable to them, you're gonna have better outcomes from those.
Thank you so much. Okay. All right, next we have is instructional report. Dr. Bishop?
Oh, my instructional report is really, SOL testing will be here before you know it. And I'm communicating a plan for each school for SOL testing. In May, the high school will be testing reading on May 15th, history on the 16th, science on the 17th, and math on the 21st. As some students have already passed that algebra test, end of course test this winter when they're on the block schedule. And the writing results are in but haven't been finalized. So we're still sifting through that and making sure that all those results are accurate. And if we need to take any results back to the VDOE to rescore, we could do that. So that's for the high school. St. Clair Walker, reading, we have all grades testing and reading on May 14th. Civics, May 16th, which is just 8th grade. On May 21st, we have math, which is all grades again. And then on May 23rd, science for 8th graders. And at MES, at the elementary school, we're starting a little bit earlier. On May 7th, we'll do reading for grades 3 through 5. On the 14th, we'll have math, grades 3 through 5. And then on May 21st, Virginia Studies for grades 4 and science for grades 5. Retakes are built into all school schedules. And as we prepare to continue our instruction to prepare our students, not only for these assessments, but preparing them for the next year, we encourage all of our students to keep attending school and working hard alongside their dedicated teachers. Okay. All right. Before we open up public comment, I would like to apologize for not recognizing because I couldn't see her. Did you have any comments that you wanted to make or?
Just wanted to let everybody know that the high school is still accepting donations for prom this year that we're before. And also that we might be missing it today, but the boys also have soccer.
Okay, we have several games going on today, don't we?
Softball has a game tomorrow. I think it's today. It's home at 6. No, what? Sorry. Please come out. I'm still joking.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll open the floor again for public comment. Ms. Kim? Good job.
Dawn Moore of Saluda.
Good evening, board. My name is Dawn Moore from Urbana. I know, Mr. Chair, you said don't point nobody out, but I do need to apologize to Dr. Sykes and to Ms. Murray, because every time I stand before the board and advocate for the school, the board chairman has a habit of calling them out, which is inappropriate in my opinion. When I advocate for the school and for them not to cut funding, when Dr. Sykes gets up, he always got to ask Dr. Sykes questions in reference to what I said. And this last time, poor Ms. Murray got up there and he questions her too. So I would like to apologize to you all for that. The agenda. Again, this month, before you got finished with I didn't even have the first date written down before you were done, because the dates are no longer on the agenda that you announce anymore. So I would like for you to redo those dates when I sit down. And if I could get the policies emailed to me, because they used to be on the agenda as well. And I do go back and look at the policies. I do go back and read the policies. I do go back and look at the policies because, as some of us know, you all are responsible for making the policies and making sure the policies are enforced. Some of us see it a different way. They're words on a piece of paper, and they don't always stand for all students. I do have a child in the school. I do have nieces and nephews in the school, and I'm across the board. I'm in all 3 schools. I do have them come home and tell me things. And sometimes what they say, I got to take a step back and I got to give you the benefit of the doubt that you're making sure the policies are being reinforced and the children are being treated fairly. But then sometimes I got to sit there and say, do you actually know what's going on? I need to make sure all our children, and I will stand before you, I have before and I will again, to let you know that it's your responsibility to make sure the policies you put in place are enforced, and our children's education should be first out of all of that. Our children's safety should be next out of all of that. I don't get into the hoopla that the parents post on Facebook. When I see the parent, I tell them they need to come here. So I really hope you think about the policies that you're changing, deleting, and putting in place. And I know it's a lot to remember, but sometimes you got to know what's going on. And sometimes what's good for one is good for all, not just for this one or that one. Thank you.
Dawn, just so you know, we've migrated to board docs. So I'm sorry, but that's where you're gonna find all those policies and all those attachments.
Before it used to say A, B, C, D, E, F, G is changed, or Q, S, T, R, S, D is changed, without having to go to read the whole book and look for a change.
Before board docs.
Okay, I'll go back on there.
All there.
I'll go on there.
Thank you.
You don't make it easy for us.
Dable and Gresham, Saluda.
My district is
It's on here, Urbana crossed out.
exactly. Urbana's where I live. My district is,
Okay.
I'm never sure which way to go. Okay, good evening. The last month, after the meeting, the next day, the response from St. Clair Walker administrators was totally retaliatory. I wasn't there. I was told about it. However, I was present for the meeting on March 20th, and once again, the meeting was dismissed by the case manager and her advocate. Dr. Parks titled Mrs. Velez as her advocate, who is actually the director of special education and federal programs. Dr. Parks stated she didn't have to take the abuse, which in reality, she was being called out on her lack of accountability in several areas of the 504 plan. She got up and stormed out, disconnecting the director, Ms. Velez, and she said very disrespectful remarks to Mr. Gresham when he reminded her about the manner she responded on the day after the school board meeting. And then she
told him she refused to answer his questions, folded her arms and walked out of his face. And she told him at the 504 meeting that she would do it again. This is who is responsible for my grandson's case, who is supposed to be advocating for him. Dr. Sanders was in the room, but did not say anything to Dr. Parks abruptly leaving the meeting. No one else left the meeting, and nothing else could be accomplished. Now, if a student had behaved in the manner Dr. Parks did, they would have been given ISS at the very least, and more likely suspended. However, someone in a leadership position was allowed to behave this way with no acknowledgement from her leader. The lack of accountability that is being displayed among the leadership in the St. Clair Walker and the leadership of Middlesex School District needs to be addressed immediately. How can you allow this behavior to be acceptable by the leaders, but you don't tolerate it among the students? The students are getting a mixed message. We as parents and grandparents are getting mixed messages in the meetings. We're told by the case manager, Dr. Parks, the resources central office is providing is insufficient, while at the same time trying to persuade us to accept these inadequate resources. It's a take it or leave it mentality we're being presented with. When it comes to abuse, my grandson is the one being abused by not being given the resources and help that he requires, even when it comes to giving him his assignments to keep him on point and the assistance he needs to learn the classwork by not being able to attend class in person. This is very disappointing and frustrating. There is very little training and knowledge of special education by the administration and the people charged with overseeing and implementing special education programs. And let me also say, you don't want us addressing the board, but when I bring up your name for accountability, it is what it is. And I see now you're trying to get a militaristic, you got security guards out there, now you're telling us what we can and cannot say. You know, what are you doing? Are you trying to cut us out of the conversation completely? I don't understand. Thank you.
I've never said you couldn't address the board. What you say is to be addressed to the board, not to the individual. Yes, ma'am. That's what I said. Yeah.
Mr. Gresham.
Caesar Gresham, Lucas Hill. All right, so as far as coming up here and speaking, I've come up here for the last 2 months. I haven't disrespected anyone. I haven't. If I repeated something that someone said to me that's sitting on the stage, it's nothing wrong with that because this is something that someone says. If when it comes out and the public hear it, it doesn't sound good, then maybe you should be talking to that person. And you say getting up here is a privilege. My son being able to go to school and having faith, that's a right. We have freedom of speech as well. And your own Middlesex County Public School Board says, see something, say something, silence hurts. But now you're telling me I can't come up here and speak about my experiences. I've tried, no, I spoke to you too, Chairman Reed, and I offered you, if you wanted to talk to me about this, you could reach out to me. I haven't heard from you. I know what's been done to my child is wrong. I know my child was illegally removed from school back in September, using a statute that was not for my son. And when I requested an appeal, because I said appeal, someone, I'm not going to say their name, waited till the 5th day to respond back telling me that my child wasn't removed. And then on the 6th day, when I had to respond back saying what happened, oh, well, you needed to ask for appeal, but now it's the 6th day. I have all the documentation. I have audio recordings. And I'm sitting here, I'm just trying to get the right things done for a 13-year-old child with disabilities. And you rather silence me because I'm sitting here telling the truth about things instead of allowing me to sit here and speak and say what's really going on. You know what I'm saying? That's a form of bullying too. None of this is okay, you know what I'm saying? No one, you know what I'm saying, has reached out, you know what I'm saying? Besides Dr. Dana, you know what I'm saying? You have spoke with me, but no one else has. And the people that I have talked to act like these things aren't happening, act like these things aren't true. And to start out with the public comments saying the disrespect, I haven't one time disrespected anyone. My child has been disrespected multiple times. When I sit in a meeting with his case manager, which is the assistant principal and the director of special education, and you tell me you're gonna find me a QMHP on Monday, and then Friday, you reach out to me saying he could come back to school with the appropriate, you know? Yeah, I mean, my time is up. I'm not, you know what I'm saying, but I'm not, my goal is not to come here and downplay anyone or talk about anyone. These are experiences that's really happening, you know what I'm saying, to my child. And you guys are violating my child's civil rights. And you should be able to relate to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm not telling any lies. I'm telling the truth.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, public input is now closed. Superintendent's report.
Yeah, I have a
That's
few things to update you on. The first of which is a budget update. And so just recently, I think about 2 weeks ago, the General Assembly approved their budget. And we finally got a calculation tool so that we could plug in the numbers and see what that looked like for Middlesex County Public Schools. It was very positive in our favor, actually. And if that budget passes by the governor, it could potentially bring us just over $700,000. So since then, Ms. Murray and I have attended 2 separate work sessions with the Board of Supervisors. We've advised them of this information and explained the general assembly budget. I'll let you know what that could mean for us if it gets approved. What we did was include in those funds that we were receiving a 3% compensation increase for all of our employees. It would allow us to absorb all of the insurance increase. I believe when we were here at the March meeting, you approved that budget. That budget included absorbing a 2% increase because we didn't have the final numbers the very next day. We met with our insurance broker and confirmed that the insurance increase is a 9% increase. So this additional funding would allow us to absorb that. And then we still had one last position that had been ESSER grant funded, and what we were doing was moving that to the Virginia All-In grant. So as not to overload the 24-25 budget. These funds will also allow us to move that position into the 24-25 budget. And that is the mathematics coach at the elementary school, which we have data that supports. And so the big thing is waiting now. That budget still needs to be signed by the governor. The General Assembly does come back into session next week. And so we will wait and see what that looks like. But I am hopeful that the bulk of those additional funding that comes from the General Assembly comes to us. It includes compensation from the state for a 3% increase, but the bulk of it is from taxes and lottery funding and incentive programs that the governor had cut back for our division. So that's an update on budget. I have a few other things to update you on. Also, I just wanted to bring to your attention that the Board of Education is working on what we're referring to as a new accreditation and accountability system. The board has been meeting. Currently, it's one system that combines the accreditation into the state accountability piece, meeting the requirements of ESSA, which is the Every Student Succeeds Act. It includes proficiency and growth in both reading and mathematics when our students start to take those assessments in 3rd grade all the way through, and of course in high school. It includes chronic absenteeism, graduation rates. I spoke of the accreditation rating, which measures all of those things. It includes dropout rate in college and career and civic readiness. All of those things were measured on and report on now on a regular basis. What the state wants to do is break some things apart, and that accreditation would shift to focusing on operational compliance and ensuring that minimum school operating requirements are in place, where accountability would look more at outcomes. And they're actually looking for, there'll be a new name for that framework framework, but looking at how schools support student learning and then how they're identifying schools for support. And it also would provide a summative measure on school performance. And so the framework focuses on mastery at elementary, middle, and high, graduation at the high school, and then growth for the middle and elementary schools. And growth would be measured by, we refer to it as VVOS, but it's the Virginia's Visualization and Analytics Solution, which is a web-based tool, and that portal displays measures of students' academic growth based over time, based on SOL testing data, and then diagnostic reports for student groups. It's used for student projections to help educators improve student achievement and inform classroom instruction. And so that growth measure would be used at both the elementary and the middle, and then graduation would be used at the high school. They are looking at a change to that in that we would no longer be able to use the graduation completion index, but it would move to just focusing on the federal graduation indicator. What that does is it impacts all types of diplomas and certificates that we are able to award in any of our high schools. And so the federal graduation indicator would only include recognizing the students that have earned a standard or advanced studies diploma. It would exclude recognition for any other diplomas, certificates of completion, or any GED programs that our students complete. So it would be, even though the students would earn those other diplomas, they wouldn't necessarily be recognized, or we wouldn't be recognized at the state level for meeting that requirement. In the elementary and middle school, because there's not graduation index to look at, then we're looking at readiness categories, and that's actually at all three areas. At the high school, it would be measuring college, career, military, and civic readiness. That's probably pretty easy to measure at the high school level. It's the middle school and elementary school that raises some concerns in the categories for readiness at the elementary level. What we've gotten from the Board of Ed right now is just performance tasks in elementary school, but they have not been defined on what that additional measure would be there. At the middle school, they've proposed the percent of students who pass a high school end of course exam by the end of 8th grade, which also raises concerns that passing a high school exam doesn't necessarily mean that you're ready for all high school material and beyond. And so the board is also voting on the weighting of those categories. The categories are weighted separately. There are multiple listening sessions throughout the 8 superintendent regions. The one for Region 3 is in Fredericksburg. That is later this week. Unfortunately, they go to Region 3 is an interesting region that it goes from Stafford County all the way down to Matthews County. And so of course they choose to go to the larger place where they're going to have probably more people show up. So that's the listening session for Region 3. Last week, they did have a session with the Virginia Middle School Association, which Dr. Sanders attended. And then this week, all of the superintendents will participate in the listening session with the state superintendent. So that's just to let you know what we are looking at now. There are lots of concerns that have been raised by, I think, every education organization within the state, including teachers and parents, and we'll just keep you updated as those new requirements get implemented. At the same time, we are getting new English and mathematics standards. So it's a lot for our teams to be working on. Last couple of other things. I know that you're all aware we had a partial solar eclipse today. Our students did fantastic during that. Following directions, I've already gotten some pictures of our students that were supervised and outside and took part of that. And we have 8 weeks left of the school year, and so they will be quite busy. Our last day of school is on May 31st. Dr. Bishop, just to let you know of the SOL testing we do have coming up, and that's just one piece of the things we have going on. And so that does conclude my report for the evening.
All right, thank you so much. Any old business?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the curriculum bookworms as presented and to include the classroom libraries.
Have a motion, you have a second?
Second.
Moving proper second. Question? All in favor? Motion is so carried. Okay. Any new business? Being none, okay, we will now prepare to go into closed session, in pursuit of code. The board will go into closed session to discuss personnel matters, student matters, and legal matters. May I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Moving properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
We're now in closed session.
So- Second.
Moving proper second. All right, and pursuant to the code of Virginia, the board has discussed personnel matters, student matters, and legal matters during closed session. Matters discussed in closed session have been added to the consent agenda and other parts of the agenda as action items and information items. Members, please certify that only lawful matters were discussed in closed session. Board members will respond by roll call.
Dr. Burnett,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. McMurtry,
Yes.
Chairman Reed,
Yes.
and Ms. Roberts.
Yes.
Mhm. Next we have is the consent agenda.
Move we approve.
Second.
Moving properly second. Any question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. Next, can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moving properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are now adjourned.
Thanks for the motion.
No problem.